The air within the courtroom was thick, not just with the gravity of law, but with betrayal, tension, and the unspoken realities that had lingered over the Brown family for years. The murmurs of reporters outside were nothing next to the look on Christine Brown's face as she moved forward. Her demeanor wasn't serene. It seethed with flame in her eyes. Today wasn't merely testimony. Today was revelation. Welcome back to Reality Recap. Christine took a step up to the stand. A manila folder clenched to her chest like it was a live bomb. It was in so many ways. The judge nodded. Mrs. Christine Brown, you may proceed. She didn't hesitate. I'd like to start with a bank statement, Christine stated, pushing a freshly printed sheet of paper over the table to the court clerk. The pages were fresh, but they were scribbled with red and yellow ink, charted out like a battlefield. The prosecutor leaned forward. Can you tell me what this is? Christine turned and addressed the jury. This is a personal bank statement. It does not come from one of our joint family accounts. This one is Kody Brown's only account, an account none of us had knowledge of. Not me, not Janelle, not Meri, not even Robyn. Gasps echoed through the crowd, and even the judge lifted an eyebrow. Christine gestured to a line. This $50,000 deposit 3 months before I publicly declared that I was leaving the family. The interesting part is where it came from. A joint business venture account, one that all 4 wives had put money into. Kody shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his lips pressed together, but he remained quiet. Christine continued. I discovered this account only because one of my kids attempted to open a new bank account. They typed Kody's name into our home network and it auto-filled. I traced the trail and this she held up the document is what I found. The prosecutor advanced a step. So you were telling me Kody made secret transfers of family money into a private account? Yes, Christine answered unequivocally. And you were saying there were multiple deposits? She turned over to another page. $22,000 here, $37,000 there, all of them dated, highlighted, and underlined. These weren't bill payments. They weren't refunds on taxes or bonuses on filming. They were deliberate transfers. From our shared account directly into his own personal one, and not once were they discussed in our weekly family gatherings. Objection. Kody's lawyer. Rose interjected. There is no proof my client didn't apprise his family. Christine's tone grew cold. We took minutes on those meetings each week for over 5 years. I have them right here. She produced another folder filled with dated signed pages. Not one word of these transfers. Not one. The murmurs increased until the judge asked for silence. The prosecutor looked at Kody. Mr. Brown. Do you dispute the existence of this account? Kody glared at the table. I didn't think it was significant. Christine's eyebrows flew up. It wasn't significant. It was our money, Kody. You promised us everything was shared, that we were together. You came on television and swore to the world that we were one family. But behind closed doors, you were stockpiling an escape fund. Kody's jaw clenched. It wasn't an escape fund. It was security in case things fell apart. Things didn't fall apart, Christine retorted. You tore them apart piece by piece behind our backs. The judge held up a hand. Let's go back to the timing of the deposit. The prosecutor nodded. Mrs. Brown. Did any of the other wives know about this account before you discovered it? Christine shook her head. Number. But when I talked to Janelle, she went over her old tax returns and retrieved deposit slips she hadn't even known were related then. Christine held up an old 1099 form. The amounts match, the dates match, and they all go back to one person. She looked directly at Kody. Kody attempted to answer, but Christine interrupted him. It wasn't done out of spite, but it was done secretly in secrets within a family like ours. They are like termites. You don't notice the destruction until the walls have already begun to fall. The judge pushed his glasses higher. Mrs. Brown, where are these funds expended on anything known? Christine took a calm breath. That is where it gets interesting. She set down another sheet of paper. This is a wire transfer to a holding company, Benton Hills LLC, generic name. Nothing special, but when we traced it, we found a P.O. box in Nevada, a location Kody's frequented a few times in the last 3 years. The judge nodded slowly. This court will ask for further documentation on Benton Hills, LLC. Christine nodded again. I have some already. She produced grainy photos, surveillance shots of Kody entering a strip mall bank in Henderson, Nevada. He said he was meeting with a tax consultant, but this was the address for Benton Hills listed. That wasn't a consultation. That was a withdrawal. The room became absolutely silent. The prosecutor allowed the full impact of Christine's words to sink in before continuing. So your assertion is that Kody Brown opened a secret account, deposited family funds into it without your knowledge, and deposited those funds into a private portfolio, all unbeknownst to. She leaned back, tired but unflappable. The judge ordered a recess, but no one in the room budged. Kody stared down at his palms, and Christine wouldn't even look at him. Because what she had fired wasn't a charge. T was a shot across the bow. And all of the people in that room, particularly the other wives, knew this wasn't about one placement. It was only the tip of something greater. The secret account was just the beginning, the reality to come. Robyn Brown was always the quiet one, the emotional one, the wife who hung on the closest to Kody while the others went drifting away. 6:08. But now, with Christine's words ringing out in the air, the account, the withdrawals. The Nevada connection. Each gaze in the courtroom turned to Robyn. She didn't budge at first, slumped stiffly in her seat, hands clasped in her lap. She looked like she wished to fade away, but the judge's authoritative voice broke the silence. Mrs. Robyn Brown, please step into the witness box. There was no avoiding it now. She stood slowly, her head lowered, each step toward the witness stand, weighing her down as if she carried a burden too heavy to handle. Her oath was breathed rather than spoken. She sat the hush thick, not of courtesy, but of anticipation. The prosecutor stepped forward, holding papers. His voice was measured, unhurried. Mrs. Brown, do you know of a private bank account in the name of Kody Brown, one that was kept secret from the other members of the family? Robyn didn't respond immediately. Her gaze strayed around the room. The judge, the jury, Christine, Meri, Janelle. And settled at last on Kody, who wouldn't look at her. She swallowed, and then at last whispered. I knew about an account. The words sent a visible shiver down the table. Janelle pushed back in disbelief. Meri blinked hard. Christine set her lips into a thin, hard line. The prosecutor nodded. And how did you discover this account? Robyn's voice quivered. About 1.5 years ago, Kody told me it was for emergencies, that not everyone had to know about it. Especially if the family situation grew worse, the prosecutor inched forward. And you didn't ask him? Yes, I did, Robyn said rapidly. Near defensive. He said it was for the children that if something happened, if we spent all our money, we could fall back on this. The prosecutor grabbed a transcript off the table. Mrs. Brown, were you ever informed that family funds community money were being diverted into this private account? The silence of Robyn told more than words. Finally, she looked away. I didn't know where the money was coming from, he never said. He only referred to it as safe money. That is all he ever told me. The prosecutor nodded again. Mrs. Brown, you were CC'd on a number of emails from a law firm based in Nevada that was representing Benton Hills, LLC. Do you know that name? Her fists were clenched. Yes, she confessed softly. I signed documents for him. He said it was to consolidate assets for tax reasons. A hum ran through the courtroom. Christine could not contain herself. You signed LLC documents without inquiring why? Robyn. Robyn's voice was shaking. I trusted him. The judge banged the gavel. The witness will respond without interruption. Robyn raised her gaze now, tears shining. I didn't realize he was making money off all of you. I didn't realize he was withdrawing money from the family account. He never informed me of that. I promise it. The prosecutor activated a button on a tiny recorder. Kody's voice echoed in the room, smooth and confident. Aunts, we've done that. We're in the clear. They'll never find out. It is all in Robyn's name now. That is the neatest way. The others will get over it. They always do. The air went cold. Robyn's eyes flew shut, her hands up over her face. No, I didn't know. He said that. I didn't know. Christine breathed to Meri. He used her. He used all of us. Robyn dropped her hands. Their redness and puffiness, a sign of the fight that had been waged. That was before I knew it was all falling apart, before he said he was done with trying with the rest of the family. And what did you tell him? The prosecutor inquired softly. Robyn paused. Nothing. I listened. The judge leaned in. Why didn't you say something? Finally, she turned to him. Her voice cracking, but honest. Because I was afraid. Afraid that if I fought, I'd lose what little family we had. Afraid that if I told the truth, I'd be framed as the enemy. Christine shook her head, not with anger, but with incredulity. You already were, she whispered. The prosecutor moved forward, brandishing one last sheet of paper. This is a wire transfer confirmation. It indicates $45,000 wired into an account in your name, designated as a holding account. Did you know about this? Robyn nodded, the barest inch. Yes. But I didn't know how he made it, I swear. He said it was royalties for the show, that we couldn't report it on taxes or it would be complicated. And you took his word for it, the prosecutor asked abrasively. Yes, she whispered, because I wanted to believe him. The room was silent. The truth was not coming out in screams or violence, but in whispered bits, heavy with the overwhelming burden of understanding. The prosecutor put down his papers. No further questions at this time. The judge looked to Robyn. Mrs. Brown. I want you to realize silence in cases such as this can do as much harm as overt action. I know, she whispered, hardly audible. I know that now. She descended from the stand, but as she walked by Kody, she hesitated, gazed at him with misery, etched on her face, and whispered loud enough for all to hear. I thought I was protecting us. All I did was protect your lies. And then she continued walking past him as Christine had, as Janelle had, as Meri had, until she sat down next to the very women she once silently competed against. No longer an accomplice, but one equally fooled. Kody did not move, because now the silence was not Robyn's to bear. It was his, and it was weighty. Her fall turned the whole courtroom around. No one gazed at Kody with a questioning glance anymore. The confusion was replaced, and in its stead was the frigid sting of recognition. He wasn't simply an aggrieved husband or a troubled father, but a man who had planned something more, something hidden beneath decades of family cohesion. But the second witness, Meri Brown, would have something new to offer, something long buried, something forgotten by almost everyone except her. Mrs. Meri Brown, please come forward, the judge instructed. She stood up, moving slowly. Her steps slow and deliberate. Her face wasn't smudged with tears like Robyn's or aflame with rage like Christine's. It was serene, cold as stone, controlled, deliberate. For years she had been the silent one. But today she spoke. She extended her right hand, took the oath, and sat down. The prosecutor came forward with a tiny pile of documents. Mrs. Brown, thanks for showing up today. You've said very little through this whole thing. Why now? Meri cast a quick glance toward the jury, then at Kody, who squirmed but said nothing because she started levelly. I knew something was amiss years ago. I just didn't have evidence until now. She placed a small envelope on the evidence table and pushed it forward. These are receipts, personal, but associated with our joint accounts. I found them 2 years ago. The prosecutor read the top sheet. Las Vegas receipts. Meri nodded. Yes, the 11th of February through 14th. A murmur ran through the room. Valentine's week. That is Valentine's week, Christine breathes from her seat. Meri nodded once more. He said he had to go to Nevada on business, a tax conference. I did not suspect anything, but subsequently, when I balanced domestic accounts, I discovered charges on an alternative account. I did not know it. Kody was always the one who did tax returns. But this time I pushed further. The prosecutor inquired, and what did you find out? Meri's tone was calm, crisp, near, unsettling. Upscale jewelry stores, a $2,500 bracelet, a Waldorf Astoria suite, repeated cash withdrawals, $800 to $1,500, sometimes several in one day. None of it connected to business. She flipped the page. And then there was a spa charge, full treatment, a limo service. Did you join him on this trip? The prosecutor asked. No, Meri replied. Matter-of-factly gasp worked its way through the courtroom. 2 months, Christine whispered. Before he said we couldn't buy new appliances, Janelle grumbled. And a week before he said the land fund had run out, Meri took out her phone. It wasn't receipts only that I discovered. There was a photograph. She displayed it, and the clerk displayed it for the court. A fuzzy surveillance photo surfaced. Kody standing in front of an upscale Las Vegas hotel, shades on a shopping bag in his hand, a woman by his side. The photo wasn't focused well enough to recognize her, but the inference slammed home. The prosecutor was calm. Did Mr. Brown ever share these costs with you or the other wives? No, Meri answered. When I questioned him about that weekend, he said it was fast, in and out. He never said a thing about jewelry, hotels, or thousands of cash. Do you have any idea which account paid for it? Yes, Meri asserted. The last 4 digits of the secret account, the same one Christine revealed, the Benton Hills LLC account, were on the charges. At the defense table, Kody covered his mouth with his hand. His eyes darted desperately, searching for something, someone, to give him relief, but no one did. The prosecutor lifted the receipts. So what you're telling us is even 2 years ago, this concealed account was being used for personal luxuries while your family was under financial strain. Yes, Meri confirmed, and Kody said nothing about it. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Brown, did you suspect this money was going into creating a future with one wife and leaving the rest behind? 1617. I don't have to suspect it, replied Meri firmly. I lived it. She addressed the jury today, her voice shaking as raw emotion crept in. He explained to us that we were cutting back together, that we were hurting, that we were. While I was barely getting by in a rental home, clipping coupons, Christine was repairing broken appliances. Janelle was selling used clothes, and he was out reserving penthouse suites and spending thousands on baubles. We weren't even worth his honesty. Meri shook her head. Robyn dropped hers. Mute, with no defense remaining. Christine's bloodshot eyes weren't puffy from tears, but blazing with fury. The prosecutor smiled thinly. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. No further questions. But before she could exit, the judge broke in. One more question, Mrs. Brown. Why remain silent so long? Meri had only a moment's hesitation. Because he always made us feel like we were the issue. When we protested, we were bitter. When we questioned him, we were labeled disloyal. Sometimes I even wondered if maybe it was me. Maybe I was just imagining it. Her eyes narrowed. But I wasn't. We weren't. He was just that good at lying. With that, she exited the stand. As she walked by Kody, she did not even glance in his direction. Whatever was left of their marriage wasn't just over. It had been sold in private, broken down to receipts, now laid bare for the whole world to witness. The courtroom had yet to draw a breath after Meri descended from the stand. Her voice, measured, cold, unyielding, left a single word hanging in the air. Betrayal. Even her Vegas receipts and that blurry hotel photo weren't the turning point. What followed didn't just taint Kody's reputation. It dismantled the very foundation he'd spent decades building, one composed of silent vows and secret bargains. It was Janelle's turn this time, and unlike Meri, she did not make her way to the stand under duress. She marched. She held in her hands a thick black binder bulging with papers. As she took her oath, the room could sense it. Janelle was not there to guess. She was there to complete what Christine had begun. The prosecutor greeted her with a smile. Mrs. 1836. Janelle Brown, I appreciate your testimony. I want to talk about the land, that is, the family land to be divided among the wives. Janelle nodded. Kody said we would each have a plot in Coyote Pass. He told us in public, told us in private, even promised our kids. The jury leaned forward, their eyes intent. Kody sat fixedly in front of him, his gaze on the desk. But then last year, Janelle went on. Something strange occurred to me. I got a notice of property taxes sent to someone I didn't know, Daleen Morrison. I thought that it was an error at first, but the lot number. It was the land which was originally pledged for my home site. The prosecutor raised his brow. So what you are telling me is that the land you were promised had been sold in another person's name? Yes, she replied, her voice slicing. And it so happened that the victim was Robyn's cousin. Gasps circled the courtroom. Robyn's head jerked up. What? She whispered. She sat unmoving, opening her binder and waving photocopies in the air. Here. This is the deed transfer of Lot 3B. It was originally put into a joint trust with me and Kody 2 years ago, but a year after it was redesignated, removed from the trust and put into a shell company known as Valley Root Properties, LLC. The prosecutor pushed and who owns Valley Root Properties, Janelle offered a sour half. Smile. Daleen Morrison, Robyn's cousin. And according to these records, Valley Root sold the parcel only 6 months ago, making a profit of $72,000. She passed over the backup tax forms. I followed it all. Kody started it. The LLC was formed 3 days after Christine officially quit, and the funds were routed into the same secret account Christine already found, linked to Benton Hills LLC. The judge leaned forward. So you're testifying that Kody Brown reassigned promised land, funneled it through a company controlled by a wife's relative, and then pocketed the profit for himself. I'm not speculating, Janelle replied coolly. I'm proving it. She pulled out another sheet of paper. This is a memo from the real estate agent who sold it, she wrote. And these are her exact words. Client indicated desire to push the property through a third-party pipeline to escape public scrutiny owing to television exposure. That client was Kody, his own words, on paper. The courtroom hung in the balance. Kody's attorney jumped to her feet. Objection, hearsay. Before the judge could respond, Janelle cut in, raising her voice. It's not hearsay. It's documented. Her signature is right here, and the agent is present in court today if you'd like to ask her yourself. Overruled, the judge said firmly. The prosecutor stepped forward again. Were any of the other wives aware of these transactions? Janelle shook her head. We all thought the land was frozen until we were completing group building plans. We were still doing blueprints while those lots were already on the market. She next spread out a map, the original Coyote Pass map. Each wife's section was colored in. My section was yellow, she said. Christine's was blue, Meri's was green and red. That was Robyn's. Then she picked up a second map. This one was utterly different. It was solid red. All the parcel purchased, consolidated, reallocated, or sold. And every signature on those sales was Kody Brown, Christine whispered. 2208. He sold our future. Meri slowly nodded without mentioning it to us, without batting an eye. The prosecutor posed one final question. Mrs. Brown, do you think this was intentional deception by Mr. Brown? Janelle didn't bat an eye. Yes, this wasn't an accident. It wasn't a clerical error. It was calculated, deliberate. Kody knew if he was too blunt or moved too quickly, we'd battle him. So he lied, concealed it, and quietly signed all he had to sign. The judge peered down at the pile of evidence, then back at Kody. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to say? Shattering the silence. Kody's voice came in flatly. I didn't do anything wrong, he grumbled. I was repartnering assets, so we'd stay in business. The family wasn't working. There was no deal, so I took action. Acted, Janelle repeated bitterly. You mean lied. You mean stole. You sold property that belonged to your children's future and channeled it into a shell company associated with a cousin you barely even know. Robyn looked over at Kody, muttering under her breath. He never even glanced in her direction. The judge slapped his pen down on the desk. This is not a property dispute. This is a matter of fraud, disguised as a family dispute. The court orders a forensic audit of all real estate transactions involving Mr. Brown and his so-called shell companies. Janelle clicked her binder shut. I gave him my house, she said, her tone sharp. It turns out he sold it out from under me. She walked away from the stand, binder tucked under her arm like a sword. The room remained quiet, not because they were shocked anymore, but because everyone was aware of the truth. Kody hadn't simply lost land. He had torn down the last strand of trust that kept the family intact. Christine sat forward in her seat, gripping a folder tightly. What she held wasn't paper. It was the missing piece of a puzzle that she had grappled with since she left. She always had a nagging suspicion. There was more than the money, more than the secret land sales, something deeper, something concealed in Kody's behaviors over the past year before the family's downfall. Now she was prepared to bring it all into the light. The judge summoned her to return to the stand. She stood serene but seething with fierce determination. Every footstep resonated like a countdown throughout the courthouse. The prosecutor nodded again. Mrs. Brown, thank you for coming back. What do you have to say today? Christine stood up and opened her folder. Within it were printed emails, screens, and an intricately labeled timeline. So intricate it seemed put together by an investigator, not a mother of six. This, she held up the first page, is an email Kody sent to a Utah real estate agent. It remained in his drafts folder. Never sent, dated only 2 days after he informed the family he was going to stay in Flagstaff and make it work. The prosecutor leaned forward. May I read from it? She nodded. Please do. The courtroom fell silent as the words resounded, searching for private land in the St. George area. It has to be big enough for one family, with some privacy, no HOA restrictions, and private road entrance. It has to be in my name only. This is urgent. Let's avoid reference to sister-wives affiliation. Gasps circled the courtroom, Christine continued. That draft had been created a week prior to our last family therapy session. Kody even spoke to me in that session, gazing at me with his eyes and saying he hoped we could make up. That we could continue to build at Coyote Pass. Her voice shook, not with vulnerability, but with rage at the recollection of his deception. I thought perhaps I was mistaken in leaving, and now I realize I was just one step ahead of a scheme I was never supposed to be included in. The prosecutor questioned. How did you get this email? Christine pulled out another piece of paper. I was managing our kids' shared equipment. One of the younger ones mistakenly logged into Kody's Google account. I opened up the draft and saved it. I didn't understand its significance back then, but now, after viewing the land sales and secret accounts, it all fits together. The judge raised a hand. What else is in the folder? Christine turned to the next paper. This is a signed purchase agreement, 6 months old, for a 10-acre lot outside Cedar City, Utah. The courtroom exploded with commotion. She held the paper aloft. Kody signed this. The seller's agent verified it. He made an $80,000 down payment on a business account under Benton Hills, LLC. Subsequently, the property was traced back to Robyn's former attorney. Robyn's face turned white. What? I didn't know that. Christine didn't even look at her. It gets better. The property had already been cleared for a personally designed 5-bedroom house, basically a copy of Robyn's current proposal in Flagstaff. Kody finally looked her in the eye. It was just an idea, he explained. Nothing concrete. Christine wouldn't stop this piece of paper right here. A utility request, solar panels. Well, satellite internet install signed, dated. Kody, you weren't considering staying. You were already making plans to leave. You were already constructing a future in our absence. The judge leaned in inquiring. And how much property was he going to buy? 27:36. Christine turned over the next page. 10 acres land for a remote estate outside city boundaries. The layout even included fencing plans, GPS points for both the primary entrance and an alternate gate for visitors. The eyes of the prosecutor widened with incredulity. Had he ever shared this property with any of his wives? Christine shook her head. Never. Not ever. Meri moved in close to Janelle, her voice a whisper. That is why he was so cool when we questioned him about those building permits. He knew we would never get to see those houses, Janelle replied in a whisper. He'd already checked out in his head. Christine turned one more page, and I also found an email to a production assistant. It was. We'll keep it quiet this season. Once filming wraps, we'll announce the transition. That'll make it easier. The judge slowly repeated transition. Christine raised her eyes toward Kody. Your Honor, he wasn't just going to leave us. He was getting ready to allow the show to wrap up its season, spin the tale that we left, and then quietly disappear with Robyn. He was attempting to rescript the finale. The courtroom held its breath. Kody's mouth dropped open, but no words escaped. The prosecutor's tone softened. Christine, if you had the opportunity, what would you say to him now? She gazed straight at Kody, her voice crisp, definitive. You said you were keeping this family intact, but what you were doing was holding the door for you and Robyn to walk through while the rest of us were still packing away dreams you had already sold. You never built anything with us. You buried us in your past. The judge snapped his pen, aghast at the sheer scope of what had been uncovered. This court will demand complete access to all real estate transactions related to Benton Hills, LLC, including the Utah property. In addition, all transactions related to unspecified financial instruments by Mr. Brown will be frozen. Christine closed the folder. She wasn't crying. She wasn't smiling. She was done. And Kody, finally, the burden seemed to sink in. The trial wasn't just taking place within these courtroom walls. It had already been happening in the families he walked away from and the promises he never kept. And now those failed promises had come back dated. Papers, witnesses, and one unshakable truth. He may have attempted to leave the family behind, but the price tag came along. The courtroom was now more than just a room full of testimony and drama. It was now a war zone of broken trust. One after another, Christine, Meri, Janelle, and even Robyn had peeled away Kody's lies, leaving it evident the center would not hold. But the most explosive moment was still to come. It occurred when the bailiff returned to the chamber, holding a small envelope and delivering it directly to the judge. Within was a folded piece of lined paper attached to a formal request. The judge read it, his brows rising. This court just received a sealed motion and a witness request from an unscheduled family member. The motion requests temporary anonymity until identity is noted, but asks to testify today in person. He glanced down the hallway. Is the witness here? The door creaked. Logan Brown, Kody, and Janelle's oldest son, walked in. The air was drawn from the room. Christine's hand flew to her mouth. Janelle just sat there in stunned silence. Kody's lips parted, but no sound came out. Logan walked to the stand with stoic resolve, not born of anger, but weight. He swore in and sat down. The prosecutor stepped in softly. "Logan, can you tell the court why you are here today?" Logan stared hard at the judge. "Because I am the leaker." Gasps filled the air. Kody jumped up. "What?" The judge held up a hand. "Sit down, Mr. Brown." Kody slumped back, fuming. Logan's tone stayed calm, unflappable. "I discovered what was going on a year ago. It started with odd details, clandestine phone calls, trips that didn't quite add up. I thought maybe Dad was just being underhanded. But then I accidentally intercepted an email meant for one of his lawyers. It mentioned a second account, Benton Hills." The prosecutor leaned forward. "And what did you do when you read that?" "I opened it," Logan said. "And what I discovered surprised me. Documents, deeds, wire transfers, real estate agreements, all of them done in secret from behind the family's back. I knew my mom didn't deserve it. Neither did Christine. Neither did Meri." He clenched his jaw. "I didn't know what to do at first, so I waited. I observed." He spun, his eyes clashing with Kody. "And I watched you lying to Mom about there being no money left, asking all of us to make sacrifices, teaching us that family always comes first when all you were taking care of was yourself." Logan didn't even look at Robyn. Her head was low. Shame etched across her face. Undefined. ETH prosecutor shattered the silence. "Why now? Why step forward?" Logan gulped. "Because after Christine departed, I figured maybe that would be the wake-up call at last. But it wasn't. And then Meri shut up." Janelle struggled to keep it together, but she was sinking. "And that is when it hit me. He was never going to quit. He was never going to take responsibility. He was going to get away, scot free." Logan raised his gaze to the judge. "So I printed it all out. I copied the accounts. I followed the shell companies. I sent it anonymously to Christine. That was me." Christine's eyes welled with tears. "Logan," he went on. "I thought my dad was such a good man who just had too much on his plate. But the more I observed, the more I knew he was filling up his own plate and leaving the rest of us to starve." Kody cracked. "You ungrateful little." The judge boomed, bashing his gavel. The prosecutor gestured toward Logan. "We have received and authenticated the documents from the confidential informant. Each of them is consistent with the evidence already submitted. Your addition verifies the willful hiding of funds, properties, and legal documents by Mr. Brown." Janelle stood up from the bench, her voice cracking. "Why did you not tell me, Logan? Why hide it from me as well?" He stared at her with eyes brimming with tears. "Because I didn't want you to hurt any more than you were already hurting. I needed proof. I wanted him to fall on record, not through hearsay, but with the truth." The judge leaned forward. "Logan, was there any other family member who assisted you in gathering this?" "What?" Logan answered softly. "I was alone." The prosecutor retreated. No additional questions. Let the record show that Logan Brown, a close relative, was the confidential informant who provided the financial and legal records admitted into evidence in this matter. Logan faced the judge again. "I didn't come to devastate my father. I came to defend the people he left behind. You always told me being a man was about defending your family. Perhaps someone finally had to defend them. Not from him, but from you." Kody's expression turned blank for once. He was speechless. It hadn't been a wife who betrayed him this time. It had been a son, and in the very bottom of him, that stung more than anything else. The judge hesitated before he spoke. "This evidence does validate intentional concealment. This court will consider this with all previous evidence for final assessment." Logan stood and turning back toward the room, Christine placed her hand over his. Janelle stood next to them, weeping unashamedly. Meri stood quietly, expressionless, and Robyn simply sat there, gazing down into her lap. Her reality crashing in around her. The man she had trusted as a partner, the child she had once known as her own. Both had broken the illusion. For Kody Brown, the game was up his spin, his tales over because the truth had a witness, and that witness was he. The courtroom was silent, not with tranquility, but with the oppressive quiet that follows a tempest when the air is heavy with aftershocks and everyone stands gazing at what remains standing. Christine crossed her arms, jaw clenched. Janelle held Logan's hand, tears still shining. Meri sat with a face like stone, unreadable. Robyn hadn't budged, hadn't said a word since Logan got on the stand. 36:18. And Kody sat alone. His attorney was beside him, but he might as well have been abandoned. His fists were curled in tight balls, his face white. For the first time since the trial had started, there was no grandstanding, no interruptions. Because he knew exactly what was about to hit him. The judge went back to the bench, his hands grasping a thick binder. The whole courtroom stood quietly, then sat together. He adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. Silence was no longer respect. It was reckoning. This court has had enough. The judge started. During the past few sessions, I've seen a family disintegrate, not due to external factors. Not due to the intricacies of plural marriage, but because one man decided to act in his own best interests at the expense of the very individuals he purported to lead. Kody didn't blink. I have gone through documented proof of clandestine money transfers, concealed bank accounts, counterfeit real estate deals, and emotional manipulation, all conducted in the name of family leadership. Christine closed her eyes. The judge went on. Testimony from your wives was not debatable. Kody Brown presented receipts and timelines that established secretive financial activity. Meri Brown showed irrefutable documents of clandestine luxury expenditures. Janelle Brown revealed phony land deals divesting the wives of their interest in mutual property, and Robyn Brown, though conflicted in terms of loyalty, attested to hiding significant asset transfers. He gazed down at his notes once more. But the strongest was Logan Brown, your son, whose bravery in revealing your actions demonstrates that this cycle of cover-up did not end with your marriage. It continued into the next generation. Kody closed his eyes, shoulders slumped, hands lying limp on the table, the judge clarified. Although plural marriage itself was not in the dock, the economic implications of unequal power within that arrangement were most definitely so. He wrapped the binder in his hand and addressed sternly. He had gone through each and every page and determined that Kody Brown had intentionally misrepresented finances, violated unofficial family understandings of trust and oral equity, and exploited loopholes in order to divert communal monies into accounts earmarked for himself and one wife while excluding the others from their rightful portion. Janelle gasped. Christine sat up straight in her chair. Meri did not even blink. And then there was the verdict. The judge declared that all financial assets tied to Benton Hills, LLC, Valley Root Properties, LLC, and related shell corporations would be immediately frozen and placed under judicial audit. All property associated with those names would be probed for fraudulent conveyance and being illegal or hidden without notice, reversed or sold, proceeds redistributed equally among the wives in line with the oral agreements already entered into the court record. A clerk rustled more papers over the bench as the judge went on. Kody, he decided, owed at least $312,000, an amount based on the concealed and misrepresented transfers revealed during trial. That amount would be split equally, 1/3 to Janelle, 1/3 to Christine, and 1/3 to Meri. Gasps ran through the courtroom. Even Robyn sat in shock. Christine shifted towards Logan, her small smile heavy, proud, and shattered at once. At her side, Janelle breathed softly in incredulity. We did it, but the judge wasn't done. Kody would be barred forever from touching shared family money again. Future royalties, endorsement deals, and profits related to the sister wives moniker were to be shared equally among all legal wives then existing, including payouts retroactive for 3 years. Kody appeared as if he were about to say something, but there was nothing. No words. The judge stopped, gaze fixing on him. Mr. Brown, you betrayed the people who believed in you most of all. You constructed this family not on love, but on domination. And when that domination eroded, you covertly rewrote the rules. You had every opportunity to lead with honor. Instead, you embezzled money, lied to your kids, and abandoned the women who loved you when you had nothing. Kody's eyes were brimming with tears. The judge's tone softened just a little. This isn't just about punitive measures. It is about truth, about healing, about acknowledging that individuals who thought they were members of a family were actually members of a scam. And today, that scam ends. He closed the binder, raised the gavel, and struck it down once with a sharp crack. Court is adjourned. The noise clanged off the wood-paneled walls, echoing as a closing door. Nobody stirred initially. The stillness had the aura of finality. Christine got up first, her face resolute, never looking back. Janelle got up, still clinging to Logan's hand. Meri went slowly, in silence, but with a strange quiet carved on her face. Even Robyn got up, face smeared with smudged makeup, lips shaking though she uttered nothing, and Kody didn't budge. He sat unmoving, hands clasped together, frozen in place, unable to stand, unable to speak, because for once there was nothing more to say. What he had lost was not just a court decision. It was the image he had worked so long to cultivate. And this time, no silence, spin, or phony smile could reverse what had occurred. Because when truth eventually catches up with you in a courtroom, you can't hide. And now the whole world knew it.